So this week we are starting our radicals unit or square root unit. Let me just go like this really quick. Okay, so kind of like how addition and subtraction are opposites and multiplication and division are opposites, squaring a number and square rooting a number are opposites. They are direct opposite of each other. So for example, 4 squared is equal to 16, but the square root of 16 is equal to 4. So first of all, this symbol right here means square root of, again, is the opposite of squaring a number. And now we know when we square a number, we're taking that number and multiplying it by itself to get the answer. When we square root a number, we're trying to figure out, okay, what number times itself is equal to the number underneath this radical sign right here. So for example, if I'm trying to look for the square root of 16, I know 2 times 8 gets me 16, but that can't be my answer because 2 and 8 are not the same answer, the same number. Versus 4, I know 4 times 4 is 16, so the square root of 16 is 4. Now for all these answers on your page, you can use your mind to try and figure it out, or most of the time when we're in school and as this gets more advanced, people just use their calculator. So if you have your normal blue calculator at home, your squared button, so if I were to type 4 squared, you would hit 4 and then the squared button. If you hit second and then that squared button, the square root will come up. Or I did link a scientific calculator on your assignment. It's right here, so you can click on it and it'll bring you to the scientific calculator. So for example, we were trying to find the square root of 16, which I know is 4, but if you need a little bit of extra help, you are absolutely allowed to use a calculator. Not wear a calculator, use a calculator. So if I wanted to try and find the square root of 16, at school, we have the luxury of using a calculator, so you have this luxury at home as well. You would just hit this square root button right here, square root of 16, hit enter, or your answer just shows up automatically, and that's 4. So you can try to do the answers in your mind, but also you can just type them in the calculator, because as things get more advanced with square roots and radicals, you want to be able to use your calculator to figure it out. Okay, so again, Desmos Scientific Calculator, square root right here, 16, your answer shows up over there. Now, sometimes there is no real square root. Okay, so for example, if I try to find the square root of 21, if I do that in my head first, I know there are 2 numbers that multiply to give me 21, but there is no one number that if I multiply it by itself will get me 21. The other way that I know that there is no real root is that if I try to type in the square root of 21, square root of 21. There we go. Okay. So if I try to type in the square root of 21, I get this really long decimal. So there really is no real root of 21. There is no number that you can multiply by itself in order to get it. So for this answer, I would actually type out no real root. Same thing for the square root of negative 16. Now, if you go too fast, you see the 16 and you're like, oh, it's 4. But if you think about it, square root of negative 16, 4 times 4 gets me positive 16. Negative 4 times negative 4 is also positive 16. So there is no number where you multiply it by itself that you can get negative 16. Positive 4 times negative 4 gets me negative 16, but positive 4 and negative 4 are not the same number. So if I try to type that in on the calculator, I wonder if I can use this button for negative 16. Okay, it gives you this answer undefined. On the blue calculator, it would also give you a special message, which basically means there is no number that you can multiply by itself to get negative 16. So for this one, you would also put no real root. So when you type it into a calculator and you get something besides just one single whole number, there is no real root, there is no number that you can multiply by itself to get that number underneath the radical. Okay, so square roots, radicals. You can use a calculator to help you out on these slides. I actually encourage it. If you have any questions or if you need any extra help, please let me know.